JJ, welcome back to the Q.A.C. Team Podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me back on, Chuck. It's amazing to be here. I'm really
Absolutely.
excited about the show, and I've been watching all the new episodes, and I love it.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. As we talked about, you were on my original podcast with Spotify back in July 31st of 23. You were one of my earlier guests with just voice, and now here we are with the new setup. We got video now. And I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story again. I can't wait to hear some of the changes that you have been through and what exciting things you have up and coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I see you
Glad
have
to
a
be here.
visitor behind you.
Oh yeah. It's eventually he'll settle in behind me on my chair. It's a thing. Whenever I go live or am on a stream like this, he will come and sit behind me. It's like he wants to know what's going on. But now we just got snow. We're meeting not nearly in July. We're in what are we in here? January of
This is January.
2025. He's amazed with the snow out the window, so he might stay there.
Right. I love it. So let's get started and tell our audience again, what you do and go through some of the things that you're working on.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I have actually a full-time day job that I do, but I work for a company remote. So this business that I've started, Amazing Plantz4merz, is actually a like passion project that's kind of turning into a way to earn money, and eventually I hope for it to be my full-time income. So Amazing Plantz4merz basically started, well, I'll say it started then because it started with my own health journey back in 2019. I was probably like majority of the people watching this right now. My regular standard diet was meat. Every meal had to have like meat on my plate, steak, chicken, whatever. And that was just kind of how things were for me. And that was normal. But we were looking into let's get a little bit healthier. I was always looking for ways to lose weight, like most of us are. And I went into, Dawn actually started growing these microgreens or sprouts, I guess, as you'd call them. And or I think they're both two things, but obviously I never got too much into that. But it sparked this video called Raw. And the video was talking about how people were healing everything from like diabetes to skin conditions and everything by going on unprocessed like whole foods, like basically uncooked fruits and vegetables. And it was like, to me, it was an amazing concept. I couldn't believe it. I thought like, oh, medications were always for healing and this and that. So I went on this crazy experiment where everyone calls me JJ. That's what I go by, Veganowledge JJ. So they're like, here's JJ with another one of her weird either a business idea or a diet, right? But this one actually worked. Within like 6 months, I had lost 55 pounds. I had still haven't, gained it back, which was different from all the other diets. I then went to like I was having chronic, like really chronic back pain, due to all of that. Within 30 days, I was able to move around properly. The next thing I noticed was I never got seasonal allergies again that I thought were actually like based on pollen or something. It was actually the dairy and food I was eating. So I became like amazed with it, started a Facebook group to tell others about my story. And I actually have my degree is in psychology. So one of the things that I did to put all this kind of together was I thought, okay, what was the shift in me that I was able to change my diet, continue to learn, study all this, and learn about not only just raw plant-based diet, but study nutrition and study um what really is the root cause of a lot of illness. And then it kind of took a turn into where I started looking at the ethical aspects of veganism from being around like-minded, those types of people. And I thought, you know what, there's a shift that happens in our mind that is, it's not about what we're eating, it's a shift that happens in our mind. So I kind of help people, I guess you would say, as kind of like a coach, with my content and with my interviews I do with other people. And the club I've created to be able to encourage people to kind of start from where they are, make little changes, and really start to get in the mindset and in the psyche of what holds us back from not only, reaching our goals with maybe our wellness and health and weight, but what, holds us back with everything is usually the same as that type of thing. So I kind of took the psychology, took the health journey, the nutritional studies, and kind of put it all together. And I love doing this. I love helping people and I love teaching. So that's kind of
That's
where it
very cool.
started from.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool. I just did a podcast recently with I don't know if you have seen that with George Cordoba, and he is of Polyvita. And here's a guy who comes on and tells his story. He had cancer, and he did the same thing. He stopped all the medications, started eating all healthy foods, and he cured himself. And he has a whole story to tell. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very much hidden information if you don't seek it out. There's a lot out there, but like if you are, and that's one of the things I don't, I guess people are like, "Oh, who's your target audience?" Well, really, the reason I want to come on shows like this, and I appreciate the platform because, there's a lot of people who were me, who this might spark something in them to say, you know what, it's not like I'm going to change anybody's mind right now because we all, for personally, I was eating that for 42 years. So that one video didn't change it. It was the little progression of, hey, let me try this
Right.
salads for a little while. And then, oh, you can eat all this. And then, oh, this and this. And it's kind of like, there's got to be a little spark in people's mind that starts them looking down the road of it. And his story, people like my story, I've interviewed people like with these amazing stories too, and I just feel like it's something that people should know, and they can stay on the same course that they're on, but also I feel like that type of information should be like shouted from the rooftops, don't you? Like it's like, why are we not hearing these stories of success? We only hear about
Yeah,
sickness and illness and
yeah,
pandemics and
yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I always hear and even from my side is, and it's, the question is it too expensive to eat like that compared to what we're doing?
I get that question quite a bit, and
Right.
honestly, it is really, I think, a myth because, if you think about it, the things that people eat as vegan, the staples anyway, not necessarily on the cooked, uncooked diet that I eat, but if you think about just if you're transitioning and you want to eat just no meat, no dairy, you're talking about beans. You can get a bag of beans for what, like $1.19 at most stores, at least
Yeah, they're
depending
pretty
on
cheap.
where you are. You can get rice is one of the cheapest things you can eat, You can get, even if you go with even canned beans, they're cheap. Beans, rice, lots of lentils, all of your, spices and things are already cheap. I'm just, people actually, some people might say, oh, you know what, it's expensive. But I mean, if you go out and you make your fridge with a bunch of frozen vegan chicken nuggets and not, buy Whole Foods, you're going to be eating that. So maybe if they're constantly just trying to buy only vegan processed food, you
Mm,
know, even that though has went down in cost since I've, started this diet. And they have some things out there that are like really good. Like I had to, check the back of the labels. I've explored all versions of this diet, but one time we got these chicken fillets, as they were called, like the substitute ones. And I mean,
mm.
they literally tasted so real. I was like nervous about it. I'm like, let me go
Yeah.
check and make sure these are plant-based. So there's a lot of things. It's not that expensive. Like it would be just like your regular budget. You would put yourself on whatever you have. You can buy a bunch of staple items. I mean,
Mm.
potatoes, that's another thing. I mean, cheap, like there's nothing, all your side items aren't really what costs you a lot of money if you think about it too. But I
Gotcha.
have, specific like meal plans if people need help with the planning of it too. So
Mhm. Yeah, the next question I have is when people, because I know you shouldn't do a drastic change of your diet like this all at once, what advice do you have? Should someone seek professional help from a doctor before they change a diet, or what's your recommendation? are there any like health concerns from someone who's going from eating normal to now going, vegan, possibly, full vegan? What happened in that transition? Anything, or what's your recommendation?
I mean, if you're on any type of medication, I always recommend, and this is not, medical advice that we're giving, so you do want to consult your medical professional. I would say that there are no real nutrients as far as like, you're not getting anything really healthy from meat. There are a couple of nutrients in it, but what it is you're also getting all of the saturated fat that's creating the, artery blockage, and you're getting fat intake that's creating the cells to not allow their insulin in. So there's also a lot of bad things you're getting. So the couple of things you might be getting from it, like maybe B12, sometimes you might want to take a supplement of that, but it would take a long time also for that. And D3, which is something we're all kind of deficient on. Those are some of the common vitamins that I usually recommend in the beginning, at least until you do your own research, that you're able to take. But there's a lot of definitely a lot of benefits. There's no one overdosing on, apples out there. So it's really not, I think that's another one of the myths that people use. Oh, it's not healthy, but actually if people are preventing and reversing disease, it seems pretty healthy, but you have to do it right. Like you don't want to, like you said, jump into it, but
Yeah,
you want to maybe consult with a plant-based nutritionist, or there's so much information now out there. You could probably even use like a chat GPT to go on there and create me a meal plan with a well-rounded diet. I mean, there's it's just the same as when you're eating regular and you want to do something healthy. Some people like doing it like slowly. Like if you're
yeah,
leading up to it, you might want to try like do a breakfast that has meatless, not doing your normal breakfast, and do like a plant-based version. Maybe do a lunch. And then when you get to dinner, some people like to continue to eat the same thing and then transition that last meal. It is hard, I think, psychologically for people because they're used to having that safety, and it's a lot of social norms attached to what we eat. So it takes
yeah,
someone with the strength to be able to find those alternatives and things. But if you feel like you want to go down that path, like I did it like instantly, like overnight, and I felt so good in 3 days. I didn't want to, go back to having the pain that I was having, and the things, and I couldn't believe the quick turnaround of it. So like some people it might take longer. There's a timeline, and there's no right one way for anyone to do it. But the fact about the medications, I do recommend, because like once you start to maybe reverse things naturally and you start to have better insulin resistance, which is that makes a lot of people have to get their medication for diabetes lowered, because you don't want it to be a medicine lowering it and you also fixing the problem. You might drop too low in sugar. So it's
yeah.
very important to consult a doctor, especially if you're on medication. And I would say, though, if you're going plant-based, try to find a plant-based doctor, a plant-based nutritionist, because unfortunately, there is a lot of still myths and misinformation in the medical industry about nutrition. They're wonderful. I think
Absolutely.
we need our nurses and doctors in situations where we need to manage illness and for emergencies. But I
Right.
do think there's actually an entire place or organization, PRMC, physicians or PCRMC, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, that actually has so many doctors that are part of it now that actually have found that they've started using this plant-based nutrition on patients, and they go
Mm.
into doctors and go into hospitals in medical education now and are teaching them about the benefits of it, and like you said,
Yeah.
people don't have to change overnight. Like literally, like this was all new to me. I felt like I was in the Matrix and coming out of it reading all this. I'm like, wait, they did what? They healed what? And it's
My
like,
head's gonna explode.
yeah, like, and even if people can just add fresh fruits and vegetables to your diet. We're so deficient in fiber, and that's what like
Yeah.
a lot of people, like if you go down the medical aisle, you'll see like antacids and everybody's popping them, and we've got, it's
Right.
normal to have heartburn, but it really, I learned, was the actual acids in our body, like comparative anatomy to an actual carnivore, they're completely different. So even though we're cooking it, our acids still can't break down the cow's milk and and the meat. So like cutting down and adding fruits and vegetables, you won't be as constipated. I hate to say that. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube?
You sure can.
We're talking, you know what. But yeah,
Yeah.
everything like energy, skin, even just making those changes, adding more fruits and vegetables. And that's what my group is about. I'm not one of these, like, I know we all know what they crazy vegans that are gonna like go
Right.
around telling you everything you eat, put that down, put that down. But I find
Yeah.
it's like, we all were there. I'm just like have this information. So I'm trying to find a way to open that little window of curiosity and allow you to then make the decision for yourself, because
Well, that's
it's
why I
not
want to
about
bring you back on, because I wanted people to understand that, yes, you have crazy vegans, but you're not one of them. We've known each other for a little while now, and I follow your posts. I see what you post. I see what you do, and you're very informative. You're very thorough. You're not one of those crazy vegans who, if somebody comments on your post, you're going to jump all over them and say, you got to do this, do that, do this, blah, 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 and then keep going. You're going to be one
exactly.
of those people who wants to follow that journey. If you're into it, follow me. Let's do this the right way. I like that.
I agree, because like we all have to be very compassionate to each other. I think the longer people are
Yeah.
on their journeys of anything, like if you quit smoking, right? Let's just say, and then 2 years later you see someone is smoking a cigarette and they're rolling their eyes and, oh, I could never do that. But you did. So you
What
know
you
what
say.
that addiction is like, like you did
Yeah.
it. You have to come from a place of that. Like I'm coming from a place, of wanting to help people that might not know this information and are like me. So maybe they want to like slowly get in, maybe they just want to find out some information. And that's why, like, I created an email list that people can feel safe and supported and ask me any questions. Like, no, there's no like question that is wrong, because I had all those same questions. So I try to take those questions and be like, where do you get your protein? Where is your, like, can you live like this? Well, I've been living for 6 years. I think I'm here alive, so I guess it works. But there's also wrong ways to do it. And if you start to like do it wrong, you're not going to feel good. Even if you change anything, let's be honest, when we quit smoking, I keep using that reference because it reminds me of a psychological addiction too, and a
Yeah.
physical possibly. When you change your
Sure.
diet or you give up anything or change anything, you're not like feeling good. I mean, drugs make people feel good, but they get off of those, and maybe in the first couple of days, you're like, okay, this is weird, or you're like struggling through that first day of like, okay, well, I'm not eating the normal way I am. But with plant-based, the cool thing is it's not, I guess what you say, it's not like torture, like everybody's sharing all these recipes online, like my friend who has a cooking channel, and like it's basically just tweaking your recipes. Like most of the stuff you eat is already vegan. If you think about it, what did you have last night? Let's see, maybe you had potatoes and, broccoli, or maybe you don't have any vegetables, but whatever it is, chili, you can make vegan chili,
Yeah.
if you're talking about spaghetti, I make a really good spaghetti. I don't eat it when I'm raw like I am now, but I have explored that. And they have even a raw spaghetti, but I haven't tried
Yeah.
that yet. I eat pretty simply. I've just kind of evolved on my journey, and we live kind of like in a little like plant-based bubble. But if you have families and you have kids, there's a lot of really good information. Like I know a lot of people from being in this industry that I can refer you to, plant-based parents, plant-based, like, I just think that you're only tweaking one little part of your meal. You're opening up all these amazing recipes, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. People are making vegan cheeses. I mean, like,
Right.
it's amazing that you could change that one little part of your life. Not that it's easy, but if you do it slowly and really, learn about it, it's going to make you like, why didn't I do this sooner? But I know if you're
One at
watching
a
me
time too,
now,
right?
you're not
You
going
know,
to feel
one
like it.
Yeah, and one at a time, right? Do one thing at a time. Just take one meal at a time each day and then do it in a week. And then before you know it, you're like you're doing research, you're finding out that this is something you can do on a consistent basis. The next thing you know, you're completely vegan.
Because you're building momentum. Like,
Yeah,
like if we say I'm gonna, go to write a page of information, you got to start with that first letter and that first word, and then like how it gets going once you start. It's like me starting talking. I was rushing around trying to get in here. Oh, I don't know. And then once I start, I'm like, well, can't stop. So it's
can't
like
stop.
it's building momentum. Like, it's
Yeah,
everything comes in. Think about other things in your life, like you're not the same person as you were maybe 10 years ago, but one little thing led to another. And you probably experienced that a lot talking to business owners. They probably, half of them would have never realized that they'd be owning a restaurant or owning a business,
doing what they do.
You've
That's
been with me
correct.
through two passions of mine here, but of course I went out of the restaurant delivery industry, which was successful. But I have to use the same thing with this. It was about taking every customer, every client, making them feel very like appreciated, because I do
Yeah.
appreciate every person that comes to me for info, and it adds like value to my life to be able to give this back, give this information back in a way
Yeah.
that,
It's very
inspires
beneficial
people.
and helpful for a lot of people, right? Yeah. So,
Mhm.
a question for you. Are you ever going to want to go back to school for a degree for any of this? Is that a plan for you, or are you happy with doing what you're doing?
Yeah, like I took a certification with We Did It Health, which was became a plant-based ambassador, as they called it.
Mhm.
And I have done so much research with nutrition. I even went on a little game show. I'll have to share the link with you about, like I probably have done so much research and know so much about the body, I could pass the nutrition degree, but it is definitely something I want to do. I want to get certified as a plant-based nutritionist soon.
Yeah, that's impressive. Like you said, you've done so much research that you know everything about, the body and the food and stuff. So is there like, would it be separate degrees for different types of like for the body and for food, or is it all inclusive? I don't know much about degrees for food and nutrition. That's way off from what I understand. But tell us a little bit about that.
It's probably like anything. There's a ton of different degrees you could get. Like you could get really
Yeah,
specialized. Like there's a couple of places that do completely like raw plant-based nutrition. There's a lot of certifications you can get. Just becoming a nutritionist is a certain kind of degree. So I think there is one that I'd have to research a little bit more, but like a certified nutritionist. But unfortunately, with health, you'll see that there's so many different types of things. And
yeah.
like there's people out there saying be a carnivore now, like, eat only meat. And I'm
Eat
sitting
only meat.
like, oh my goodness, like I know that would be popular because that's allowing us to do what we already did, that we're happy with that. So of course when we see something like, oh, butter is good, and salt is actually good for you, and these things, they get clicks and they get people
Yeah,
to really want to try it. But what I always say is, if like say you try eating all meat, you will then eliminate your processed foods. Probably some people give up soda with that. So any type of diet that you're eliminating certain things, you're going to initially feel better. But like the long-term studies that I've read and my own journey and just studying purely going in the body and understanding nutrition, one of the things that makes most difference is saturated fat. And the highest form of saturated fat is in animal products, because we already have our own fat inside of us. So,
yeah,
and dairy
that's
is
true.
literally meant to make a baby cow, grow to 500 pounds. So if you think about it, that type of putting that in their body, especially as adults, I feel like one of the first switches you can make is going to plant-based milk. It tastes just as good. Like if we're putting on oatmeal or cereal, you don't tell that's really not from a cow. But if you think about it, that is what is causing, like what I've learned is, anyway, if you look at atherosclerosis. I think I might be saying that wrong. I'll leave that to the plant-based docs. But that's like what makes your arteries clogged. There's a guy, I believe his name's Dr. Neil Barnard. He was very influential to me, and he has a lot of information on reversing diabetes, but he was in medical school and actually saw people's hearts. He had to actually see the insides of people, and he literally, that's when he switched, and he said, I didn't know that was causing that. So the meat
Yeah.
and dairy are high forms. You can get it, fried foods are giving you saturated fat, so there's better ways to cook things. But when I
Yeah.
see people eating only meat, I mean, one thing is going, let's limit our meat. That's what's been going on for 10 years. Like the Heart Association even says cut down on red meat. But we got people out here now deciding to eat only meat, feeling better and saying, hey, I got rid of this, I got rid of that, but there's no vitamin C in it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they probably have to supplement just like vegans, because carnivores themselves make vitamin C and we don't. So we have to get it somewhere. And like
Right.
certain
Yeah.
things, like after studying nutrition, I'm like, okay, you're taking the one thing that I'm finding out over here is causing all the disease. And you're, instead of like, I'd be happy if people just ate 80, 90% fruits and vegetables in the, and started to cut down on meat. But I'm like, I'm seeing this like epidemic or whatever you want to call it, or this popular, the things that people are saying online, it's hard to watch. Sometimes I have to
Yeah.
just close out YouTube, right? Like,
Well, I
you know,
get it.
we
Yeah. I
all can
mean,
make little things that improve our diet, but we don't want to go completely
yeah.
the wrong way. Like somebody comes on and says, hey, you should eat fried food and bacon, and people do it, and like
Just
it
eat bacon only is good for you. And
everybody might like it, but and there's other
right.
ways you can make vegan bacon literally that tastes just like it,
Yeah.
oddly enough, but that's not
Right.
important. But yeah.
Yeah. Oddly enough, right? Because we talk about that, how sometimes the foods are, when they're not processed and they're not coming from a real animal, it's the plant based and it doesn't look the same, but it still tastes the same. It's interesting.
Yeah, they even have it looking the same now. It's scary, Chuck.
Yeah. It's
But
scary.
they
Right.
actually, the wild thing is people are like, well, you don't know what's in that, but literally it's usually like, carrots, soybeans, or some type of plant-based starch that's in it, right? Making this
Yeah.
stuff. But the weird thing is, you wouldn't want to know what's in that meat right now either, because if you think about it, there's antibiotics. You don't want that either. So, like when people say you don't know what's in the plant-based food, I can look at the side and find out what's in it and decide if I want to eat it. But there's all this
Absolutely.
stuff going on right now about, oh, don't eat the red dyes and all how they're killing us with
Blue
food.
40 and red 34 and yellow 19. Yeah.
Well, we can just not eat cereal, but when you're, stuck with meat as the centerpiece of your diet and you don't really know what they're injecting in it, I
Yeah,
think it's
absolutely.
probably worth looking into it. Like, even if
I'm
you're not
with
going
you.
to do it right away, 100%, just join my email list. I don't put like scary, weird information out that's going to like show you the inside of a slaughterhouse or
Yeah,
anything like that, what they are putting in the meat. But like what I do is the other way. I find the only way to motivate people is to make them feel positive about it. Let's talk about all the good stuff fruits, vegetables,
absolutely.
nuts, and seeds can do. Let's just start
Yeah,
making some ways
absolutely.
to put more of those in our life. And
Yeah,
then eventually you'll build momentum, because like I'm not going to do something if somebody's making me feel bad about it. Like
right.
literally I want to do something that's fun, that feels good, that's motivating. So that's
Yeah,
what my group is about, encouraging the talking
right.
about how great we're all feeling on these foods and what you
Right.
can you know
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up and talked about that because we're at the part of the show now to where in closing, how do you want people to reach out to you? What are the ways that you want people to contact you to follow you and to learn what you're doing as part of this full vegan lifestyle?
So the best way right now that I have is my Amazing Plantz4merz VIP email list, which is a free, I call it the VIP Club. and you can come to like lives and meetings I have, but basically it's just I send out emails weekly with like encouraging motivation. Some of it translates over into life. Like, I did one recently, 10 changes you can make to transform your life, talking about like in your relationships and things. And a lot of it has to do with changing your food and like 10 easy ways to transition, different things that can kind of help out. And I have one that I will send out, that one I sent out for New Year's, and I'll also send 10 simple changes you can make to get healthier. And if they sign up and put in Q.A.C. team or Chuck or whatever you want to put is where you heard about it, I'll get that right to them. And I will
Awesome. That's cool.
also give them any guidance for free that you need. Just reply to the email if you have questions. And
Awesome.
also, I've got a YouTube and a Facebook and also Instagram. All of that I can link to you too. But the email is a good way to reach me directly.
Okay. And I guess you can send me the links that you want me to put in the show notes for this here, and we'll get them in so people can follow where you want them to follow you. How's that?
Awesome. I'm excited
Awesome.
about that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Jen, thanks for coming on again. I appreciate you, coming back to new form here. We're getting away from the voice only podcast, and now we're full blown here with video. I'm loving what I do. I love interviewing people. I love sharing their story. And, you are an inspiration. I follow what you do. I listen, I look at things, and I'm getting there myself. I'm trying to make changes. 2025 is going to be a big year for me. And I hope 25 is a big year for you and for our audience. Everybody who's watching, take that step, take a small step to learn more about your body and make yourself feel better,
There you go. It doesn't hurt to just learn, right? You don't have to make
Yeah.
any changes. No one's going to tell you have to do anything, but you can learn about it. And that's what my platform's all about. So thank
And I
you.
think that's what's good about what you do is that you don't force people. And you said it well. You're not sharing slaughterhouse pictures and animals shivering out in the cold, and you're not trying to make people feel a certain way. You want to share the knowledge so people can realize that you can feel better by eating better, And I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, the way I came into this was to lose some weight. The
Yeah.
animal advocacy, all of that might come later, like it did for me. But what started me was just a simple, I want to lose some weight and try it for 3 days, experiment. And look what happened.
3 days turns into what? Years.
That might be a good idea. Try it for 3 days and see if you can do it. And that might make
There
you
you go.
feel good enough to keep going, right?
There you go. You're onto something. I
We
love
have
it.
a fruit and salad challenge going on right now, depending, it doesn't matter how you eat, if you want to even join, but you just eat 2 servings of fruit every day. You can do it for lunch and a salad before your actual regular dinner. And I give you the salad ingredients. Hopefully it'll fill you up.
Very cool. Jen, thanks again for coming on. It's been a blast. Love talking to you. I love seeing what you do. Continue, keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
You too. Thanks for everything. I'm really proud of everything you're doing too.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Jen, have a great rest of your day. Take
Thanks for
care.
listening, everyone.
Absolutely. We'll see you.
You've been listening to the Q.A.C. Team podcast with your host, Charles Luttrell. Connect with us on the web at QACteam.com, TikTok at Q.A.C. Team, Facebook and Instagram at QAC.team. Thanks for your support.